Hello, my name is Zidan Solomon. My candidate number is 6281, and two colleagues, as well as myself, have thoroughly researched how wastewater is harming the environment. What is wastewater? Wastewater, in simple terms, is any water whose quality has been affected negatively by human activities. This can vary from industrial to commercial to agricultural use. Wastewater is a huge problem in Florida, as well as around the world. For example, in 5 years, more than 1.6 billion gallons of sewage has spilled into local communities in Florida. This is not counting the countless other ways wastewater can affect communities, just sewage. Sewage is a part of two classifications of wastewater, sewage and non-sewage. Sewage is wastewater that comes from waste products of a normal lifestyle, whilst non-sewage in this case is any form of wastewater that is not sewage. Both of these classifications could be equally as harmful in certain cases. Some examples of harmful influences that affect wastewater include human waste, food scraps, oils, and finally, chemicals. The first one I'll be glossing over will be human waste. Human waste contains nitrogen and phosphorus, which can both negatively impact the environment, for they may cause eutrophication, which will be discussed further in the presentation. Not only that, but if human waste or any mixture containing human waste somehow contaminates a local drinking water supply, it could lead to many civilians receiving harmful diseases, such as, but not limited to, cholera, dysentery, hepatitis A, typhoid, and polio. Now, the next influencer that affects wastewater negatively would be food scraps. Food scraps and wastewater are a very harmful contributor to the environment. The reason for this comes to show when these food scraps are decomposed. When these food scraps are decomposed, they release methane, which is a powerful greenhouse gas. This dynamic greenhouse gas is one of the leading causes of climate change and global warming, and when methane is released, it bubbles up into the atmosphere, directly harming the atmosphere. Food scraps were more of a less known influencer in wastewater harming the environment. The next one is a little more known. It is none other than oils. Now, there are many different types of oils which all range in severity. For this reason, I'll be discussing more harmful oils, such as petroleum or motor oils, rather than less severe ones. Oils like petroleum and motor oils often get taken by stormwater runoff, which will also be discussed later in this presentation. This stormwater runoff carries oils and other pollutants into creeks, streams, rivers, and lakes, contaminating bodies of water. This contamination causes plants and aquatic life to get damaged or even die. All of this happens while also degrading the quality of water. For this reason, oil wastewater is a large contributor towards harming the environment. The next contributor is chemicals. Chemicals are a very significant influencer towards harming the environment. For the sake of severity, the chemicals that I will be using as an example are more harmful chemicals rather than less substantial ones. The influence chemical wastewater has on the environment is pretty predictable. They mostly harm aquatic life, either by directly killing them or another way. Many chemicals also rid animals' ability to reproduce when consumed. These can pose a sizable problem towards aquatic and animal endangerment and overall environmental harm. Now that that is done, we can now move on to the problem itself. There are three main problems that I'll be focusing on, because I believe these problems to be very influential and very achievable solutions to apply. The first one is industrial leaks. As the world continues to evolve and become more industrialized, more industrial pollution is created and eventually finds its way towards harming the environment. The leaks caused by these industries release many toxic substances and create great dangers towards the environment. The following problem is pretty similar. Ruptures in main sewage lines. Main sewage lines are the pipes that connect homes to the city's connection or septic tanks. All sewage coming from homes run through this pipe system, and if this important pipeline is ruptured and not treated immediately, all the sewage influences discussed earlier in this presentation are more likely to contaminate bodies of water, or even a drinking water supply. The last wastewater problem that affects the environment I'll be attempting to reduce is none other than stormwater runoff. Stormwater is and will forever be present, and when the flow of rainwater occurs, many pollutants can be picked up with it. Stormwater runoff can contaminate many bodies of water, harming many ecosystems and compromising the quality of water. This is because of the many pollutants picked up by said stormwater. After identifying the problem, I'll now be talking about the effects of the problem stated. Since industrial leaks and ruptures in main sewage lines are very similar, I'll be talking about both at the same time. One big effect caused by both industrial leaks and ruptures in main sewage lines is something that I mentioned earlier in this presentation, eutrophication. Eutrophication is when a body of water becomes enriched with minerals and nutrients. On the outside, this may seem like a positive thing, but that is not the case. Eutrophication promotes the growth of an overabundance of toxic algae in plants, which leads to increased levels of carbon dioxide. This algae then grows on the surface of the water. These are called algal blooms. These harmful algal blooms decrease the sunlight for the aquatic animals and plant life. This reduction in sunlight then leads to hypoxia. Hypoxia is a state where there is a lack of oxygen, and dead zones are places or periods where no life exists. So there is usually a confusion between them, since the lack of oxygen in places often lead to the death of aquatic animals, or animals just leaving because there's not a sufficient amount of oxygen. All of these effects come from industrial leaks and ruptures in main sewage lines, contaminating bodies of water. They both lead to a decrease in biodiversity, which is a big problem for the environment. The next one is rainwater. Rainwater serves as a weighty problem to the environment. This is because of two things. The first one is the overwhelming of water systems. Water systems may exceed capacity and end up rupturing and leaking waste into bodies of water. This is very problematic, for all the influencers discussed previously are at risk of contaminating bodies of water or drinking water supplies. The next effect has also been mentioned previously, rainwater runoff. Rainwater runoff may carry pollutants that harm bodies of water if contaminated. Rainwater runoff can harm the environment for the same reason as before. Now, I'll be introducing some instances where these problems come into play. Primary incident discussed will be a leak contaminating the Sarasota Bay in Florida. Sometime in late June 2020, there was a leak from a Longboat Key sewage pipe. It was left unaddressed for nearly 2 weeks and spilled an estimate of 26 to 28 million gallons of sewage into the Sarasota Bay. Pipe leaks happen all the time, but when a pipe leak is left unattended for a few days, let alone almost 2 weeks, the casualties could be monumental. Another incident of wastewater harming the environment and such would reside in Germany. In May 2015, a concentrated solution of highly alkaline water by sodium hydroxide was washed into a town near Bonn in North Rhine-Westphalia's drinking water supply. The water level increased to a pH value of 12, and residents who unfortunately came in contact with the contaminated water almost immediately had a toxic reaction. The lack of network alarm systems and cutoff mechanisms led to this leak to go on for a few hours, and the water company was then rectified. This incident serves as a good example of how a leak that is unidentified quickly and swiftly can swiftly lead to many casualties. The solution I have chosen would further prevent leaks and incidents like these from spreading further. One solution I have chosen is smart water monitoring systems and cutoff mechanisms becoming mandatory in industrial industries and main sewage lines. The second solution is replacing regular pavement near bodies of water with permeable surfaces or pavements. When I say smart water monitoring systems, I mean water monitoring systems placed on or in pipes that detect irregular flow in water and set an alarm once detected. This system is greatly paired with water cutoff mechanisms, which are essentially mechanisms where you can stop a pipe system from flowing for periods. Pairing these two up is as great as one can imagine. The smart water monitoring system can detect the leak, and the cutoff mechanism stops the leak from further damage and buys more time for the leak to be fixed. These systems will have to be checked regularly to ensure that they are working properly, around every 1 to 2 months to be precise. I believe that it is almost impossible to prevent leaks from happening, so the best solution would be to prevent further damage. This is exactly what the next solution does too, permeable surface replacement. What do I mean by permeable surface? I mean surfaces that have pores so that liquids, in this case wastewater, can pass through them. You may be wondering why this is even considered a solution. As stated previously, I would like to prevent further damage, and with these permeable surfaces being implemented near bodies of water, it would slow down the contamination of wastewater. This would also buy time for the leak or source of wastewater to be fixed. When I thought of this solution, I was mainly thinking about rainwater runoff and how to slow it or stop it from spreading so quickly, and I believe this solution to handle this problem amazingly. My teammates both had interesting ideas. Noel and Ray had a solution of replacing pipeline systems to prevent leaks from happening. This is a great idea, but I believe it to be a little time-consuming and kind of an impractical goal to achieve. This is because many companies or homes will have to be on halt because of the replacement of pipes going on, not to mention there not being enough workers to replace all the pipes of homes and structures. My other teammate, Giovanni Nazario's solution, was employing the use of septic tanks. This solution I find to be pretty interesting, because septic tanks are used often, and the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, would not apply because the problem of wastewater harming the environment is still present and progressing further and further by the day. If one is going to attempt a problem as serious as this, they have to think of something new in hopes of bringing light to a horrendous issue. All, all in all, though my teammates had interesting solutions, I believe my solution to be the most achievable and efficient, because this is a terrible problem that needs to be treated as fast and efficiently as possible. Thank you for your time.